In a village nestled at the edge of the Great Alolan Forest lived a girl named Lila. The village was known for its colorful festivals, ancient trees, and legends of magical items hidden within the forest's depths. But Lila, a curious girl with bright, chestnut hair and eyes that shimmered like the morning dew, had never seen any real magic until one fateful afternoon. It all began on her 12th birthday, a day that would change her life forever. Chapter 1. The sparkling key. Lila woke up to the soft rustling of leaves against her window. Her mother had made her favorite breakfast, honey cakes and warm milk, and her father had promised to take her into the forest to collect wild berries for their evening feast. But just as Lila was tying her shoes, she heard a faint tinkling sound, almost like a distant melody carried by the wind. Curiosity got the better of her, and she followed the sound out the door and into the meadow behind their house. There, lying on the grass, glittering in the sunlight, was a key. But this was no ordinary key. It sparkled with an otherworldly glow, and as Lila reached down to pick it up, she felt a warm, tingling sensation shoot through her fingers. The key was intricately carved with tiny symbols, ones that Lila had never seen before, and as she held it in her hand, the tinkling sound grew louder. It seemed to be coming from the forest. What could this be for? She whispered to herself. Just then, her best friend, Theo, a boy with tousled hair and a constant grin, came running up to her. Lila, happy birthday. What have you got there? Lila showed him the key. Theo's eyes widened.
Wow.
That's definitely not something you find every day. Do you think it's magical? Lila shrugged but smiled. Maybe. Let's find out. And so, with the sparkling key in hand, the two friends ventured into the Great Alolan Forest, not knowing that the key was only the first step in a grand adventure. Chapter 2. The Flying Guitar. The forest was cool and shadowy, with beams of sunlight filtering through the canopy of leaves above. Birds chirped high in the trees, and every so often, Lila and Theo would stop to listen for the strange music that had led them there. The deeper they went, the louder the tinkling became. As they walked, Theo spotted something unusual hanging from a branch overhead. A guitar. But this wasn't an ordinary guitar. It floated a few feet above the ground, strumming itself gently as if carried by an invisible breeze. Is that flying? Theo asked in disbelief. Lila nodded, her eyes wide with amazement. The guitar was beautifully crafted, its strings shimmering like silver threads in the light. Without thinking, Lila reached up and plucked one of the strings. The sound it made was unlike anything she had ever heard. It wasn't just a note. It was a ripple of magic that seemed to hum in the air. Suddenly, the guitar came to life, spinning and soaring through the trees like a bird. Theo yelped and ducked as it swooped over their heads, playing a lively tune. It's leading us, Lila exclaimed, and she and Theo took off running after the flying guitar. For hours, they followed the guitar deeper and deeper into the forest. The trees grew taller, and the air thicker with the scent of pine and earth. Along the way, they noticed strange things: flowers that glowed in the dark, stones that floated an inch above the ground, and streams that sang softly as they flowed. Finally, they reached a small clearing. In the center of the clearing was a large tree, ancient and gnarled, its bark twisted like the coils of a rope. At the base of the tree was a tiny door, barely big enough for a squirrel to fit through. The guitar hovered above the door, playing a soft, sweet melody before slowly descending to rest beside it. What now? Theo asked, looking at Lila. Lila knelt down and examined the tiny door. To her surprise, there was a small keyhole that matched the sparkling key perfectly. I think this is it, she said, holding the key up to the door. Her heart raced with excitement. Ready? Theo nodded, though he looked a little nervous. With a deep breath, Lila inserted the key into the lock and turned it. There was a soft click, and the door swung open. Chapter 3. The tiny cupcake charm. Behind the tiny door was a tunnel, just big enough for them to crawl through. Lila hesitated for a moment, but curiosity got the better of her once again. She crouched down and began to crawl into the tunnel, with Theo following closely behind. The tunnel was longer than it seemed, and as they moved forward, the air grew warmer and the sound of the guitar's melody faded. After what felt like forever, they emerged into a new world, a world filled with the soft glow of floating lanterns and the sweet scent of sugar and spices. They were standing in the middle of a village unlike any they had ever seen. The houses were small and round, with roofs made of candy canes and windows shaped like stars. The streets were paved with soft, springy grass, and in the distance, they could see a group of tiny creatures dancing around a fountain made of chocolate. At the center of the village stood a grand clock tower, its face adorned with twinkling gemstones. But what caught Lila's attention was a tiny charm hanging from the clock's hand. It was shaped like a cupcake, no bigger than a coin, with delicate icing swirls and a cherry on top. As Lila and Theo approached the clock tower, one of the tiny creatures, the leader of the village, it seemed, came forward. It was a friendly-looking squirrel, standing upright on its hind legs, wearing a little vest and a bow tie. "Welcome, travelers," the squirrel said in a squeaky but cheerful voice. "I am Nutley, guardian of the cupcake charm. You have been chosen to help us, for you carry the sparkling key." Lila and Theo exchanged surprised glances. "Help you? With what?" Lila asked. Nutley sighed, his tail twitching anxiously. "Our village is in danger. The magic that protects us is fading, and soon it will disappear completely. The cupcake charm holds the last of our magic, but it is weakening. We need your help to restore it. But how can we help?" Theo asked, scratching his head. "We don't know anything about magic." Nutley smiled. "You have the sparkling key, and you found the flying guitar. That means you are connected to the ancient magic of this forest. There is one more item you must find, the magic flute. Only then can you restore the cupcake charm's power and save our village." Lila's heart raced. She had always dreamed of going on a real adventure, and now it was happening. She looked at Theo, who nodded with determination. "We'll help you," Lila said. "Where can we find the magic flute?" Nutley's eyes twinkled. "Follow the path of the singing stones, and they will lead you to the enchanted glade. But be careful. The forest is full of surprises, and not all of them are friendly." With that, Nutley handed Lila a small map, and the two friends set off once again, this time in search of the legendary magic flute. Chapter 4. The path of the singing stones. The map led them deeper into the forest, where the trees grew so tall they seemed to touch the sky. The air was thick with magic, and the ground beneath their feet hummed with energy. Every so often, they would come across a stone, smooth and round, glowing faintly, and when they stepped on it, the stone would emit a soft, musical note. "These must be the singing stones," Theo said, his voice filled with awe. Lila nodded, but her attention was focused on something else. The forest felt different here, as if it were alive, watching their every move. She could sense the magic all around them, pulsing in the air like a heartbeat. As they followed the path, the music from the stones grew louder, until it was almost deafening. But there was something strange about the sound. It wasn't just music anymore. It was a voice, faint and distant, calling out to them. "Do you hear that?" Lila asked, her brow furrowing. Theo nodded. "Yeah, but what is it?" They followed the voice, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. The path led them to a clearing where they found a small, shimmering pond. At the center of the pond was a stone pedestal, and resting on top of the pedestal was a flute, glowing with a soft, golden light. "The magic flute," Lila whispered, but as they approached the pedestal, the water in the pond began to ripple, and a figure rose from its depths, a tall, graceful woman with flowing silver hair and eyes that sparkled like the stars. "I am the guardian of the enchanted glade," the woman said in a voice that echoed like the wind. "To claim the magic flute, you must prove yourselves worthy." Lila and Theo glanced at each other nervously. "How do we do that?" Theo asked. The guardian smiled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "You must face the trials of harmony. Only those who can find balance between music, magic, and friendship can wield the flute's power." Lila took a deep breath. She didn't know what the trials of harmony would entail, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, she and Theo stepped forward, ready to begin the final leg of their adventure. Chapter 5. The Trials of Harmony. The first trial was a test of music. The Guardian summoned the flying guitar once again, and it hovered in front of them, playing a haunting melody. "You must play in harmony with the guitar," the Guardian said. "Only then will you pass the first trial." Lila had never played a flute before, but she knew she had no choice. She picked up the magic flute and held it to her lips, listening carefully to the guitar's melody. Slowly, she began to play, matching the notes as best she could. At first, her music was shaky, but as she focused on the guitar's song, she found her rhythm. Theo clapped his hands to keep time, and together, the three of them created a beautiful harmony that filled the clearing with magic. The Guardian smiled. "You have passed the first trial." The second trial was a test of magic. The Guardian raised her hand, and the ground around them began to shift and change. Trees sprouted from the earth, twisting into strange shapes, while vines and flowers grew rapidly, creating a maze of living plants. "You must find your way through the maze using the magic of the forest," the Guardian said. Lila and Theo looked at each other, unsure of how to proceed. But then Lila remembered the singing stones. She closed her eyes and listened for the faint hum of the stones beneath the earth. Slowly, she began to follow the sound, leading Theo through the maze. It wasn't easy, and there were times when they thought they were lost, but Lila trusted in the magic of the forest. Eventually, they found their way out, emerging into a sunlit glade. The Guardian nodded approvingly. "You have passed the second trial." The final trial was a test of friendship. The Guardian raised her hand once more, and the air around them shimmered with magic. Suddenly, Lila and Theo found themselves standing in the village square, but everything was different. The village was dark and lifeless, and the cupcake charm was gone. "You must restore the cupcake charm's power by working together," the Guardian said. Lila felt a surge of panic. She didn't know how to restore the charm's power, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. She turned to Theo, who gave her a reassuring smile. "Let's figure this out together," he said. They began to explore the village, searching for clues. As they worked together, Lila realized that the magic wasn't just in the key or the flute, it was in their friendship. Every time they helped each other, the village grew brighter, and the cupcake charm began to glow once more. Finally, when they had worked together to solve the last puzzle, the cupcake charm shone with a brilliant light, and the village was restored. The Guardian appeared before them, smiling. "You have passed the trials of harmony. The magic flute is yours, and with it, you can restore the magic of the cupcake charm." Chapter 6. The Return to Nutley. With the magic flute in hand, Lila and Theo returned to the village of the friendly squirrel, Nutley. The cupcake charm, now glowing brightly, hung from the clock tower, its power fully restored. Nutley and the other villagers cheered as Lila played the magic flute, filling the air with music and magic. The village was safe once again, and the forest's magic was stronger than ever. As the sun set and the stars began to twinkle overhead, Lila and Theo sat by the fountain, watching the villagers dance and celebrate. "This was the best birthday ever," Lila said with a smile. Theo grinned. "And the best adventure." The two friends laughed, knowing that their adventure wasn't over yet. The Great Alolan Forest still held many secrets, and they were ready to discover them all. As the night grew darker, the sparkling key glimmered in Lila's pocket, a reminder that magic was always waiting, just beyond the next turn in the path.